Hi, Dr. Ruth Anderson here with Enlightened World Network. So excited today to have a special rendition of Focus on Lightworkers, and our guest is Michele Landers. Michele is preparing to do a new show on EWN, so we wanted to take a few minutes and just introduce her and let you know who she is and what it is that she does. So Michele, do you want to just say hello?
I would love to. It's so wonderful to be here today. And I love Enlightened World Network and what you're doing. It's so beautiful. And sharing, supporting others and being supported. So I'd love being here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, we love having you. So what Michele brings to the table is a beautiful mix of numerology and using intuition. So she's going to be really providing some awesome opportunities for folks to come on her show and talk about their personal numbers and their life path. But before we get started with any of that conversation, Michele, talk to me about the numbers of today. 4/22/20 is Earth Day. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I was looking, I said, oh, wow, this is Earth Day. And not only is it Earth Day, but the numbers are so powerful today. And it'd be interesting to see how all of that plays out because we have 4/22. 22 is considered a master number in numerology. And a master number, and of course, the year is 2020, which is what? 22. So we have 4/22/22, and that's a huge awakening. So how that is going to affect everyone on the planet Earth is raising the vibrations. So when we have a master number, what's really, really interesting about it, you've heard the expression, to whom much is given, much is demanded. So a 22 vibration is a high vibration, high energetic vibration, very enlightening, very spiritual. It calls to you to connect up with the divine. Now, what happens if we, I wrote an article recently called Answer the Call. So what happens if you don't answer the call? When you have a 22 vibration, it's much easier for you to get into that vibration of divine love and divine energy. If you resist it, if you have that feeling, of wow, something is different. I'm feeling different. Sometimes it manifests as feeling a little antsy, a little bit like, oh, wow, what am I? And even maybe a little bit more energetic. So when that happens, and I'm thinking that that is probably a feeling that a lot of people, if they pay attention to it, are feeling today, and they might not even be quite sure of what it is. And I'm telling you, it's a divine call out to us today. And if you can spend any time in some meditation, I would say, maybe a good amount of time, maybe if you can carve out, 20-30 minutes. If not, that's fine. But just get in touch with that divine calling out to us, because it is, when you do that, you get like these beautiful downloads of high energy, and which helps you to move further in the direction of your path. Master numbers are very powerful. And I can't help but think that all over the planet today that we will be feeling that. And again, you may not recognize it for what it is, but if you just stop and pay attention to your body and what you're feeling, I think more people will notice it. So I found that to be just like fascinating today. And it's foundational as well. So it's breaking down the old so we can create new foundations of love and connectiveness and compassion and all those things that we're moving that's where the world is moving, in that direction of more compassion, more love, more understanding, more connectedness. So it's a very, very powerful day today. And I don't know, Ruth, did you feel any of that by any chance today?
Today in my meditation, I'm going to put you on gallery. Today in my meditation, I spent time with Archangel Jophiel, Archangel Michael, and Sandalphon, and they were bringing in the nature energy today, and asked me to do a special gem activity with one of the green gems, which is green, having to do with nature. So I was being called to step up a little bit into my own calling, into my own light working. And so, yeah, I did. But it was for a bigger energetic cause. So yeah, I guess I played right into that.
Yeah, it's the numbers are just fascinating and beautiful. And if you understand, have a deeper understanding of the numbers, then when they show up, you know how often people say, gosh, I'm always seeing whatever the number is, 1111, which is usually the most common. That's also a master number, and that is intuitive, and it's calling also. There, when you see triple numbers, double numbers, it's always the divine speaking to you. And there's so many languages, right, that the universe and the divine uses to communicate with us.
Right.
And it's not the what I would love, but this isn't usually the case, is a giant sign that falls down from the heavens that says in English, do this, with the hallelujah chorus playing in the background. But that is not the common way for the universe to communicate with us. It's a different language, but when we're in tune with it, marvelous, miraculous things can happen, because when we're paying attention, it helps us, navigate through either some rough times, or just what is the next best thing for us to do. But we really have to pay attention, um, hearing. Often people will say something, and if you feel that when that person is saying something, if you feel something inside, pay attention to what they're saying. And I don't think that people realize how intuitive they are naturally. And we dismiss it so often, like, oh, what was that? Oh, that was nothing. No, it's usually something. It's, I would say, always something. So it might be a sign that pulls your attention. It might be a photo that pulls your attention. And when that happens, I would just always encourage people just to stop, just pause for a moment and ask yourself, what does that mean to me? What does that feel? What is my, it's all about the feeling. What's the feeling it's bringing up for me? So the divine doesn't necessarily communicate to us in a language that we, either our native language, but it does communicate to us all the time in ways that we just need to pay a little more attention to and recognize.
Right. So one of the things that I have, Michelle, on my phone is I've got a list of the angel numbers that have been presented to me. And so to me, angel numbers are when you get three numbers in a row.
Yes.
And then I had a little chart next to it. So if I get 3 zeros, it means this. If I get 3 ones, it means this, etc. And then I just have a running list of every time. And when there's a big major life activity for me, then I'll write down what it is and list the angel numbers behind it. And I can't tell you how many times I might be behind a car and see their license plate, or look at the time on the clock and it's 333, or look on a receipt and there's 777, that kind of thing. And I'll chart it just And I'm amazed how many numbers are on my chart. When you really
Wow.
start paying attention, they're everywhere.
They are. Yeah. Well, the earth, I'm not sure if it was Pythagoras or maybe it was Plato, I think, said the earth is built upon the power of numbers. We are so ruled in a sense by numbers all the time. Our address, our phone number, our weight, our height, everything is translated into numbers. We're, a lot of times it's really interesting because my license number is full of fives, to the point where one time somebody even said that to me, that why are there so many, isn't it funny that there's so many fives? And I said, yeah, I know. And that means change. That means a lot of change. My phone number, the first, other than the area code, but my first 3 digits are 444, which I'm very happy about. That's a very powerful angelic number as well. And so the way that the numbers show up all the time in our lives, I think this is really interesting too. The first house that I ever lived in when I was growing up equaled a 9. And I didn't reflect upon that until later, later on. And then when we moved to 63 Jackson Avenue, which was a 9.
Yep.
Then I lived in an apartment, and I think it was, I can't remember if it was 108 or whatever it is, it equaled 9. And then when we moved to, this is a very interesting town in New Jersey called Piscataway. When we moved to Piscataway, our house number was 9 May Court.
Wow.
So that's a number that shows off pretty frequently for me, and I do resonate to it. Now, by the same token, sometimes there are numbers that can be, challenging for you. There's always a lesson in it. There's always a lesson. But I remember Kevin Quinn Avery, who was my teacher, incredible, just he knew so much about not only numbers, but he knew so much about astrology and the Kabbalah. But he used to say to me, you got to try and avoid the number 7, which is interesting because 7 is the number of God. But he was talking about in like daily little interactions and things like that. And I'm not going to go into it now, but I had a situation where I got involved and the energy was 7, which normally as I said, 7 is the number of God, and it just didn't turn out well. Now, whether that was, a thought in my head, well, I'm not sure about this, or it was in fact Kevin's words, there are some numbers that are more challenging for us depending on your chart. But you can always rise above it too. And that's the beauty of it. If you learn the lesson of that number, then it doesn't have to be an issue or a challenge for you any longer.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Really interesting. Yes.
So Michele, this morning marked on YouTube for EWN our 540th show. So I had to ask you, tell me about 540, because it really just jumped out at me.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's pretty simple. 5 and 4 is 9. And we're just talking about that. And so in numerology, all the numbers, for the most part, let me make it pretty simple. They go from 1 to 9. Anything above 9 is always reduced to a single digit, except if they're master numbers or triple numbers, we keep those and read those intact. So at any rate, the numbers go from 1 to 9, and 9 is the global number of humanity, and it's giving with unconditional love. It's compassionate. It is wholly loving and supportive. And as I said, it's a global number of humanity and uplifting humanity. So how do you like that?
Sounds pretty perfect for what we do.
It is very perfect. It's ideal. It's really beautiful. So do you notice certain numbers that show up in your life?
I get a lot of sevens, which to me means all is well, right?
Mhm.
It means I'm on the right track. I I go through different phases. Sometimes I'll get a lot of twos, and other times I'll get a lot of fives. Right now, I think I'm probably in. I've been in a triad phase. I'm working with two lovely women, Deb Goldberg and Terry Angel. So a lot of triad stuff. Um, some nines, a lot of sevens, on the right track. That's kind of where I am right now. So
Okay. Well, as we just, I talked about just a little bit, 7 is one of the most, for me, one of the most interesting numbers in numerology. They're all fascinating, but 7 is truly the number of God. Okay. So you would think, because I just mentioned, oh God, 7 was a little bit of a challenge for me. 7 is also the number of having faith and belief. It's a number of God. It's a very, very special high vibration. And I will give you this little tidbit. People who come here with a 7 life path, they are meant to be either teachers or, specialize in a field, or teach or share information. But the number can also be really challenging. And what I find fascinating is there are often people who have addictions with a life path of 7.
Hmm.
But I understand why. There's a number of things at work here. Number one, because they came here with a very high calling, and sometimes they have these challenges that they need to go through in order to, it's like refining, when a diamond, the pressure that you put on coal in order to create a diamond. And in this way, with a 7, because they're supposed to be teachers and light workers, sometimes they have that challenge of addiction to overcome. So they will have so much more knowledge and compassion and understanding to share. But it's a really interesting, it doesn't mean everybody, by the way, with a 7 life path is going to have an addiction. I'm just saying that in my, and I've done thousands of charts, it comes up so frequently that I knew I had to pay attention to it.
interesting. So
Yeah.
Michele, when somebody signs up for a session with you, what's
Mhm.
that like? What kinds of things do you cover?
Well, that's such a good question. Now that would depend, because there are people who sign up and they just want to know what's happening in my life right now. That's what they're interested in. I want to know what's going on, what's happening. And I gladly will do that. For me, though, because I'm so in love with the whole study of numerology, it's so much bigger than that. Because when you understand a complete chart, you understand more about why you are who you are, why you're here, what is your mission, what is your purpose, where are your karmic areas, what challenges do you have, what talents do you have. And that is one of the most beautiful parts of numerology, is being able to explain to a person, hey, you came here with a 3 life path. That happens to be my life path. And you're here to create in some form or another. And it's usually through words, or it's usually through words, whether that's writing or speaking. And it's also to bring joy. And so if you have somebody like me who has a 3 life path, and then you try to put me in a 4 job, and a number 4 job would be something that's behind a desk, 9 to 5. That's it. There's nothing else, just nose to the grindstone type of thing. I would just wilt. I would just completely wilt. So the beauty of the numbers, when somebody comes to me and they really are interested in a whole life reading, what I find, Ruth, is it very, very often will give them permission to do what they've always wanted to do, but felt, like, oh, I'm not supposed to do that. That's not what, based on growing up and your beliefs and what you heard. So what they can expect, if they just want a reading for the year, what's going on, I'm happy to do that. But it's so much, to me, it's so much richer. It's more about your whole life and your divine contract, with the universe, and why you're here, the purpose of your life, because we all have a purpose. And I believe that we all are unique in our own way, that we're all special, that we have a gift, and our job is to discover that gift and then to share it with the world. And I always say, if you love to make ice cream, and if that's your gift to make ice cream, well, then just be the best damn ice cream maker, because people will love it.
Right.
So
Right.
Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah. I would look forward to a session with you myself. I find it fascinating, and I love the combination of the numerology with the intuition.
Yeah.
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 Very exciting. So you have got a couple of shows coming up. One of them is on Thursdays and Saturdays, and it's going to be at 1:00 p.m. Eastern time, and it's called Divinely Inspired by the Numbers. And I know you've got different guests lined up for each of those shows, and you're going to spend some time with them, just kind of digging into their numbers a little bit and
Correct.
exploring a question or two that they have, and a little bit of time in meditation to kind of set the stage. So I'm really looking forward to those shows.
I am too.
And then you have a masterclass on May 16th. It's an hour-long masterclass starting at 10 a.m. Eastern. Folks do need to register for that. There will be a way for them to do that. And it's called Understanding Your Unique Numbers, Exploring Your Gifts, Passions, and Life Path. Can't wait to see that.
I'm excited for that too, because I always love to share the information about numbers, because I don't know how many people really, even though numerology's been around for a while, it's not really as well known as astrology. And everybody has 4 core numbers. And once you understand those 4 core numbers, it gives you a lot of insight onto who you are, why you are who you are, and your motivation in life, how it shapes your personality. And also, when you understand a little bit more about numerology, it gives you such a better understanding of other people. And I'm going to talk about that as well in relationships, which, we know that where do we learn? How do we learn? Don't we learn through relationships for the most part, right?
Right.
Those are relationships are our greatest teacher. And whether it's your relationship with another person, as far as an intimate relationship, a relationship at the workplace, and a relationship with yourself. When we understand those other relationships, it really can change how you see yourself and how you see the world, and certainly how you see others. You have much more understanding of others. And I think it gives you a lot more patience and compassion.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I can tell. We're going to get to learn about the numbers and we're going to get to learn a little bit about life. So this is
Yes.
very cool, Michelle. So Michelle, if folks want to reach out to you and learn more about your work, how do they do that?
Well, they can go to my website, which is michellelanders.com. And Michelle is with one L, or they can contact me by email if they prefer. And that's Michele Landers, same thing, one L, at bellsouth.net. Or should I give my phone number? I'm not sure how many people use phone anymore, but
Just your email, I think is fine. That's
I think it's
perfect.
fine.
Yeah, great. So
Yeah.
on behalf of Enlightened World Network, we can't wait to bring you these shows. So excited to have Michele Landers online as a host with Enlightened World Network. So all of our friends who are watching, thank you so much for being here with us. Keep watching Enlightened World Network for new shows coming up. And God bless and take good care. Michele, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. God bless. Thank you.